welcome to another episode of the Keep Making podcast. Today on the podcast we have Monica Perry.
Thank you so much.
Is the customer success manager for Pro Marine Supplies. So you've been at Pro Marine Supplies for 3 years?
This February will be 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you've been with them through all of the crazy things that have happened over the last 3 years when it comes to like a lot of growth, acquisitions, changes, and the whole time you've been taking care of customers.
Yes.
I want to talk to you about how you take care of customers, but first, the reason why you guys are here, and you guys are in our upstairs, like very first episode ever of the podcast room. This is not the final stage, by the way, for those of you that are watching.
Okay.
But right now, like, you're the very first one I'm going to be interviewing up here. I'm going to be interviewing a lot of different people up here. You guys came up so we could film some videos together.
Yes.
And you know what you're doing with epoxy like crazy.
We love epoxy. I think part of knowing, or just it's the passion of learning, and what I like about it is that you can never stop learning. You know, there's always something new to venture out with the product itself. The product has a lot of potential, so it's not just designed for your tabletops or bar tops. The possibilities are literally, unlimited. You can just keep going.
I would fully agree with you. And also, like, I think a lot of people kind of get that as like an idea, but it's clear that you actually know how to make stuff with your hands with this. So did you dive in right away when you became started your job? You're like, you know what, I'm going to get my hands messy right away, like with this stuff. So when did you start realizing the possibilities for yourself when it came to epoxy? Because I think it will be a good insight to you as a person, because I think once you get latched onto something, I have a feeling like you're like, ooh, I
can't let go. Yes, I want to grow. Well, interesting is when I first started with epoxy, I couldn't even spell epoxy. I didn't even know what epoxy was. So one thing is just learning and being very familiar with the instructions. So that's pretty much like your cookie cutter. Safe zone is I stuck close to the instructions. As a matter of fact, the first couple of projects I literally did with the instructions right next to me and had somebody read it to me.
Okay. So you were really covering
exactly.
your
I was nervous, and
right.
that's something that even a newbie, they shouldn't be nervous about, because once you understand the dynamics, how this product works, and the key factor is your temperature, knowing how to mix it, which is, I always tell customers, using the flat wooden stick, scraping sides, stirring the bottom, scraping sides, stirring the bottom, doing it no more for 8 to 10. Then literally after that, it's just a piece of cake. So once I learned the basics, actually it just gave me more of an incentive, and in reality it gave me courage to try to start different surfaces, different projects, different possibilities of casting. I mean, I just started also with the cheese board, incorporating stones and, doing glitter. You literally start feeling so comfortable, and that's where we get a lot of customers too, that they start thinking outside the box and they come up with these amazing, projects.
So for you, what was the very first project that you ventured down? Like that first time someone was reading the instructions next to you?
The very first project, which I still have, is a butcher block table.
Oh, you did a table out the gate.
Yes, the table. I was a little nervous about it, but I had, Grandpa just reading the instructions. And this actually, I like this type of project too, because you can always find somebody to bond with, and you can work with someone, side by side, and it's nice because it's something you guys do, and you see the effects later on, and the results of it.
You get a lot of joy from it.
Exactly. Yeah. So we actually read it. We epoxied it. I didn't use any color. I actually did straight, basics, just clear, because I wanted to see how it worked. My first mistake was I did not actually use my plumber's torch. So I saw some, bubbles, and then I decided, well, I have to, use my plumber's torch. I scorched it. So there was a few mistakes in the beginning, but they were good mistakes, because then it teaches you, what not to do later on.
I think that's actually really wonderful, because you dove headfirst in, and like those bumps, I think, are part of the process for everybody.
And like anything. I mean, you're learning how to drive. Guess what? Sometimes you may bump a couple of things that you don't want to, right?
Yeah.
But that's you're learning.
Hopefully not any people, but
not people. Yeah. But those are some things, or you're learning how to cook. You burn a couple of things. It's just, this is a learning curve. But is it hard? Absolutely not.
I would agree with her. So Let's back up a little bit. So this podcast is all about people that create their way through life. It's not like you've just been a customer success manager your whole life. So let's back up to where maybe you first started, knew that you were brave enough to try new things. When did that first start for you? Because everybody's journey, I think, in confidence in their own abilities to, whether it's create a piece of art, whether that is to like learn how to drive, what doesn't matter. Like those possibilities are endless there too. When did you fully wake up to that drive within yourself when it comes to like, I can do this, I can try this, and I'm gonna kick butt at it?
Well, first, I guess for me, it's always been a love of people.
Okay.
So it doesn't matter what I did. I actually worked a lot with kids, special needs kids. I worked in hospital settings, again, dealing with different types of people, all different ages. For me, people is very, very important to me. So taking a personal interest in what they like to do is important. So regardless of whether you're doing customer service or I do volunteer work, it's people. People are involved. So now you have people. I love art. I was very artsy at school. I actually taught art for a little while too. But these are like kiddie arts, like doing Winnie the Pooh and doing things. And that's what I used to do. I actually used to, in a hospital, paint these for the kids to see something that can, make them happy, whatnot. But so now I have epoxy and I've got art. And I thought it was just phenomenal that you love people and all those merged together. It's like a perfect,
Little storm there. Like,
yes, that's exactly, you took my words. A perfect storm.
That's awesome. So you were working with children of different ages and different needs for a while there, and then you decided to get into your current role. How did they recruit you? How did you find this role? Because I think customer service in general is a little underrated when it comes to the importance of it and in taking care of people like you did in different settings. It doesn't matter if it's a product or a service or whatever. People still need help and they need to be further educated. So how did you find yourself landing in your current role? Were you recruited? Just talk about that journey a little bit.
Actually, I didn't go to it. It came to me, and I'm very grateful for that because somebody actually saw a potential, and that's what I like to see in people. Is I like to, sometimes it's just a diamond in the rough, but a lot of people, everybody has a potential. In everybody difference, some people vary. They're great with people. Other people are very, analytical, whatever the case may be. Everybody has a potential. Everybody has something that they can shine and they do better than somebody else. We're not all the same. So actually I had somebody approach me and offer me the job. I actually felt that I was probably not good enough for it.
Really?
Yes.
That would be crazy. I've only known you as this person, so that I'm like, what?
No, after a couple of months, I was like almost in tears. I'm like, I don't know if I can make you proud of me. Maybe I'm not a good person for this. And he was actually very good. He just gave me a little bit more encouragement and positive reinforcement. It's, trust me, you can do this. You'll be just fine. And literally tailoring every circumstance to every single customer. I think that was the key is, don't take it like what you did for Joe. Don't do it for Mary. It's every customer is different and they all matter. And I think from then on, we just took off.
That's awesome. So I'm trying to pull out to a larger view of you as a person on purpose, because I think we all can understand like certain jobs and certain roles and like for what you do at Pro Marine Supplies, but I'm really curious how you discovered like, oh yeah, I need to remember to treat every single person as individuals. I think a lot of people talk about these things, but are actually pretty bad at implementing them. And it's clear that you care about individuals because even before this podcast started, you were downstairs on the phone with the customer, even though we're up here filming videos.
He thanked me very much.
So like, it's clear that you're like, well, I'm going to take care of this person. Doesn't matter the circumstances that I'm in. I know I can help this person. I'm going to do it. How do you know how to do that? Is that just something that comes instinctually for you? And I know I keep kind of asking the question in different ways. It's because I'm trying to get a different view of it. Because to me, it's really impressive, and it's the thing that I think you bring to the table the most.
Yeah, I think it's just one key ingredient is personal interest. If you have personal interest in the person, it doesn't matter what they're doing. Listening, and then putting your input, but it's that personal interest. Your priority is my priority. Your worries are my worries. Your concerns become mine. So with the customer we just dealt with, what we just did is make sure that he's got our phone number, make sure that he's aware that he can text photos, and that actually puts him at ease because he feels that you're working with him right there virtually. And when you have someone that they say, I've got your back, what do? You feel comfortable, you're at ease, and the potential is, unlimited. They just can do as much as they want, and that's what we want to reinforce. We've got a great product, but foremost, I think we've got the best customer service team. That's awesome. That's what keeps Pro Marine Supplies just growing and growing and growing. And people will actually leave whoever it is that they were shopping just because they want to deal with you.
Yeah, I've seen your Amazon reviews, and I've heard about you. You're kind of a hunter when it comes to Amazon reviews. Can you maybe?
We won't put that in table.
So I think this is a really good thing actually, and we could decide whether or not. I've heard that you're a hunter when it comes to negative reviews, and this is I actually think is a really good thing, because a lot of people take negativity and think that people are just being negative for being negative's sake. We do this. I have different teams that manage different brands for Polytech, but like for Alumilite, for instance, if there's a negative comment that comes through on Facebook Messenger or on Instagram or wherever it comes through, we stop and pause and go like, this person is clearly struggling and or upset about something. So let's
So what do you do with that
first? We want to treat them like a person. So we go like, hey, whatever negativity they're coming at us with doesn't mean that we have to come back with the same energy, because the reality is they're probably just struggling with something. So we treat them like a person first, and generally they like whatever armor they had up very quickly falls away because they're just frustrated and they're trying to solve a problem that you can help them with.
Yeah, and most people, and you can probably relate to this, most people that leave negative feedback is, one, they're frustrated. Two, they're very upset. They're very emotional. Yeah. Very emotional. So what they do is nowadays, because we're in the age of rating everything. Right. It's very important they release that sense of frustration in writing. Right. So one is, I like to just let that sit for a while. So we don't want to reach out too early, and it's really a very fine line, because you don't want to wait too late either. Right. Because then they forgot about everything, and now it's like, forget it. It's not important to them. So once we reach out,
all the steam has gone out of their ears.
And we actually do, our very best to find out, because my goal is actually to try to speak to you. So, if I left a super negative comment about a product, you would actually reach out to me. I try to talk to you, and if I can't do it by phone, then my first lines by email is, Katen, I want to thank you so much for your feedback. I have to acknowledge what you say. I'm grateful. Negative or good, I want to thank you. Thank you for your feedback. I do see, however, that you had some trouble with the application of the product. Please know that my goal is not to try to find out, you did this, I didn't do that, you did. No, my goal is to work with you. So let's go over the steps to see if we actually can better something. I'm not going to tell you you didn't read the instructions. I'm not going to tell, because I'm not going to put because that's one thing they're going to have, like
defenses might rise back up a bit.
You read my mind. Yeah. They're, until you realize that you're working with them, and then slowly they start, just backing off from being so defenseless. And as you're talking to me, what I'm actually doing is I generally will create a ticket, and you don't even know this. So I've got your name, I've got your order number, I'm writing down your issues and cutting and pasting articles that will be, pertaining to your issues. By the time we're done our conversation and you're like, okay, that sounds great. Well, Katen, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Please note that all the information I've already going to email it to you. It's all ready. You probably have it in your email box right now. Now, if there's anything else, please take down this number. Please know, I always tell them it's like the Batman line. You can call me. And it's actually, you can send me photos. So we're actually there step by step with you. And they actually feel like great, and they feel like $1 million because you made them feel like they matter. It doesn't matter whether you just ordered a gallon or you ordered 100 gallons. Pro Marine Supplies, I always tell them, your voice is very important to us.
Mm-hmm. I know it might sound cheesy, but like I think all of this is really cool because taking care of customers at the end of the day makes sense, not just because they're people, but it also makes really good business sense. I mean, like the reality is like your return customer rate's got to be crazy high because of this, because you're taking care of people's needs, but also if they're struggling, because like your first pour, even you still like, oh no, there's some imperfections, and then I cooked the resin, so like it doesn't matter where you start, like someone's gonna have a problem.
Mm-hmm.
So you're having a team of people available to the bat line to like call up and, hey, I need help.
Yeah,
makes all the difference in the world.
And just so you know, I like that Pro Marine Supplies does not just reach out to customers when you're having issues.
Right.
We have some customers that have been exceptional. They've been regular customers. They're kind of like VIPs. We go above and beyond also for them. Let's say we're having a sale. Mm-hmm. You don't really look at your email. So what we've done is gone through, let's say, one of our apps, which is our Shopify. I'll find out who you are, and I will be calling you and say, hey, Kaiten, and I'll email you as well. I just wanted to let you know we're having a sale. It's about 20% off. I certainly don't want you to miss it. Mm-hmm. So just to let you know how many customers are like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. Let me put in an order right now. And they have done it.
That's awesome. That's so cool. So let's talk about something else a little different. I want to talk to you about your favorite project that you ever made when it comes to epoxy. So I know you've done tables, you've done cutting boards, I've seen you do dirty pours and different pieces of art. I know at this point you probably, I mean, you told me that you have a garage that you were regularly working in. You had to clean it up just so you could park cars in the garage. Yes. So help me understand a little bit about like maybe your piece of work that you've done that has just been like, you know what, this is very near and dear to me. It could be a sentimental thing, like maybe you put some photos into something that you're like, this is a beautiful piece. I don't know, like what is your favorite piece that you've ever done with epoxy? And you're probably like, I can't pick one, but
no, I think I like the photos. I was doing photos for a friend, and I think I like that a lot.
Okay.
Because I think a lot of people can implement. It's such a simple project, but what a great way to do a keepsake of photos.
So whose photos? Maybe give us a little insight. Is like
a good friend.
A good friend.
Yeah.
You keep looking over at Jennifer, who's behind the camera over here.
Yes.
And was it for Jennifer Bonwell?
Yes,
okay, cool.
No, it's neat because I'm like, and as soon as
I'm gonna call it out.
As soon as my husband and I saw it, he's like, "Oh my gosh, we should do that, for our photos too." He goes, "I love the way it looks. It's so simple, and yet, you just have it there forever." And people like to do kind of the same thing, but they'll put it on a coaster. So, now you're actually using it a little bit more. But I love photos. Photos, it's like old school. Remember how you used to have your photo album? What I used to scrapbook.
Oh, yeah.
So photos are very dear to me.
Yeah.
I think that would be my best, like, go-to project would be just try to incorporate photos.
Sweet. I like that a lot. I can resonate with that a bit as well, because when I was 16, 17, I'm not that old or that young, however you want to say it. I used to put photos of all my road trips and me and my friends up on my wall. So I had like, if we went to Montana, they'd be like, this would be the Montana trip, and they'd be like,
but why photos? Because photos actually trigger memories.
Oh yeah.
So I figure if she was going to look at that picture, 10 years from now, 30 years from now, I'm not going to say anything.
Yeah.
She's just going to look at those, and she's probably going to be like, oh my gosh, I remember those days. It literally triggers memories for her. So I think for anybody else, anytime you use photos, it's like a song. You hear it, and automatically your mind goes to
right back to that moment.
And that's why photos are to me very dear.
Cool. I like that a lot. That's really great. So one of the things I'm going to prep you now that I let every guest do, they can ask me a question as well, because I obviously I'm pestering you with a bunch of different questions, and I sometimes even slightly personal ones, and you're doing a great job, by the way.
Thank you.
You also, I'm like, I keep trying to match how you're sitting because your posture is so good. I'm like, I feel like I keep slouching and I have to keep sitting back up. But so I'm planting that seed now for you. But maybe talk to me a little bit about your inspiration. So when I was talking earlier about like this podcast about people that create their way through life, you obviously create things with epoxy. You have a beautiful family. You're talking to me about your dog and your children and your husband in the past. How have you created this life that you have? And I know that seems like a really big question.
Very broad.
It's very broad, but here's why. I think people don't remember that the two are tied. So like you have an ability to like make things with your hands. You have the ability to help people. You've also created this wonderful life that has nothing to necessarily to just do with those actions, but they are tied because you have a confidence with yourself that permeates everything. So that's why I asked, like, how have you gotten there? Is like, because I see your life and I'm like, that's a beautiful life. How did you do that? And I think a lot of people have those questions quite regularly. And I don't think they know that actually the confidence that you move within the art ties to the life that you're after. So maybe if you could, would you talk about that a little bit?
I don't know if I know a lot of people are very familiar with the saying, if you're handed lemons, make lemonade. Mm-hmm. So a very positive attitude is a big deal in our house.
Okay.
So anytime if I say something, and yes, sometimes it would come off negative, my husband would say, now, how can you turn that around and make it positive? Like, keep it positive. And at first it was a joke because we're like, oh, not positive. But actually, your attitude plays a big role in life. Mm-hmm. So whether you're doing, the customer service, whether you're doing art, whatever it is, learn from your mistakes and then just keep it positive.
I think that is a lovely piece of advice. I think that's wonderful.
I like that. Yeah.
This is great. See, this is why I ask these questions, because like I'm after these other little insights, because what I'm trying to do with this podcast and in general with the kind of content that I think all of our companies are making is like, what can our customers walk away from, or the people that listen to them, in a way that provides them with some kind of tangible value? Because at the end of the day, if we're just like talking at them or just, make it like, look at how cool we are, it's not going to be very helpful. But I do want to give them insights that could potentially improve their life on some level, because that will only create more value for them. So
absolutely. And with someone that, I don't like to attribute it to energy. I honestly think it's more like an attitude. You tend to be attracted to that person because it's like, oh my gosh, they're always happy. Something horrible happens, I'm like, oh my goodness, they're okay with it. I mean, obviously, you're going to have some sort of emotion.
Oh, right.
You may be hurt, you may cry, but that's okay.
Oh, I'm a big crier.
So there you go. So you turn it into something positive afterwards. You learn from it and you move on. If you ever drive, it's nice to look at the rear view mirror and, make sure that we avoid issues that we did in the past. But you can't drive looking at that rear view mirror because you're going to crash. In other words, don't dwell on the past. Move forward.
Man, well, I'm kind of like, I wish I had a microphone that wasn't attached and I just like let it drop a little bit, because that was a good mic drop. Okay, so I'm not going to keep you on the hot seat for too much longer. I do want to ask what your favorite thing about working at Pro Marine Supplies is, though, especially since Jennifer Bonwell is sitting right behind the camera, and just want to put you on the spot a little bit since she's over there.
Oh, she's an awesome...
And you can also... This is a chance where you can, like...
No, this is easy, because she is an awesome boss. She makes life easy. Working with the product, it's, like, incredible. I mean, it's like I can't get... I can't... Like, I have to pinch myself that, oh, my goodness, they're paying me to play with my product here and be creative. And, and just having a great team. I think that is all bonus all the way.
I can resonate with that. I think... all the brands that currently I'm very impressed by, and also like the people that have these jobs, everyone feels very, I hear it a lot, like everyone feels very fortunate to be in the positions that they're in.
Exactly.
Despite all this like stresses or struggles, whatever, I have not really heard many people being like, I hate my job. I actually haven't heard it once since I started working here, and I'm like, this is good.
Oh, and that type of attitude, going back to the attitude, tends to spill over, because then we see it with our sister,
companies,
or companies or organizations.
Yeah.
Like they're doing the same thing. So here we come, we work with you, we spend time with you, and it's actually very encouraging. It's actually very positive. It's good all the way around. It's like you want to do more.
Right. Yeah. Keep that goodness rolling.
That family keeps growing.
Yeah, I would agree. So, I think my last question for you is, for someone that is starting their very first project, and not outside of instructions, what would be your biggest piece of advice for them? And maybe it could be just as simple as, don't be afraid.
No, it's like, hands-on. I mean, hands-on. Practice makes perfect.
Okay.
So the way, I love the way ProMarine right now it's priced. It's very, I guess, suitable. I would use the word reasonable enough for somebody that's a newbie. You start with a quart size kit, but practice, practice, practice. And I know a lot of people that start first off with coasters, then they feel like, courageous enough to go into something bigger and bigger. Before you know it, they're doing their whole tables, they're doing, their kitchen counters, because they've actually learned how that product works. So absolutely, practice, practice, practice.
Cool. That's great. All right. Well, the time has arrived. You can ask me anything you'd like. And even if you don't have any questions, that's also okay, because sometimes that doesn't happen. And then after that, I'll let you out of the hot seat, and we'll just go ahead and wrap this sucker up.
No, let me see. I have a few questions we can ask.
Oh, go for it. Yeah, if you got a few, I can answer a few.
So how did you get involved, like from the time you started to doing this? Because all of a sudden,
Do you mean like starting this job?
Starting this job.
Yeah. So before this, I worked at a production agency for about 5 years, and after 5 years, I lifted my head up and I was like, it's probably about time for me to do something else. And more circumstances than that led to me like, it really is time. So I reached out to a lot of my friends. I'm like, hey, I'm looking for something new. You know who I am. You know what I love. You know what I'm about. And I had a couple of key friends, and one of them, shout out to Lizzie Williams, sent an email to Mike Foppel's friend.
Wow.
It was a friend of a friend, and I think they go to church together or something like that. And
so it just worked out.
So just like kind of the network worked, and then I got on the phone one day with Mike Foppel, and we had like an hour and a half long conversation, and very quickly I was like, this guy sounds... everything about this job and who he is sounds a little bit crazy, but also a little too good to be true. I was like very suspicious. I was like, this can't be the kind of job that's, one, in West Michigan, two, real.
It sounds too good.
It sounds too good to be true. Because they were looking for someone that can lead a content team, can lead a marketing team, but then also wants to really run content for all these different brands in a way that will support them. And I was like, that's extremely up my alley. You want me to make content and build my own team? I'm like, what? I would love to do that. So the next day he's like, can you come down and meet me? So I drove down to Kalamazoo, to their old spot in Kalamazoo, Michigan, and we hit it off. And
wow.
he gave me a verbal offer a week and a half later or something like that. And
well, you tend to exude also in those people skills, I would say.
Yeah,
I see that in you too.
I'm a bit, when people say I'm a people person, I'm very much a people person. Doing these kinds of interviews, for instance, I'll be stocked with energy for the rest of the day now, because I actually like these kinds of interactions. I like asking questions. I like learning about people, and not from it kind of sometimes feels selfish because I do feed off the energy, but it more so of I know a little bit more about that person's stories. How cool.
And that's actually a great skill, because that's something that I notice even with the epoxy society. That's exactly what everybody does, and me included, is we feed off of each other's ideas. We feed off each other's, ideas for projects or techniques. It's like, oh wow, let me try that, and I personally like that, because then that keeps it positive and you just keep on growing.
Yeah, the ones that are I can't share my secrets. I'm like, there is this thing called Google, and there's a lot of people doing similar things. You're just kind of closing yourself off to the really upside of the energy of actually sharing the process, sharing the secrets, because there's not, it's not that secret.
No.
You're pouring epoxy.
Epoxy
and then you're applying it in different ways.
Yeah, it started off, I think, in the 60s, was very, very popular. So, now we're just bringing it back.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. You said you had questions. Is there another one? And did I answer that question
No,
fully?
actually, you did an amazing job.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Instead, the pleasure has been mine. So
cool.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast. I really appreciate you giving us some insights when it comes to taking care of customers. And thanks for making the trip up north to hang out with us.
It was my pleasure. Thank you.